flag is waved. Watch for the lights to come on. It's 18 laps around Valencia. The lights go out. Who gets the best of the start? Is it Daly? Is it Friday? It's Daly. Conor Daly gets a great start. Immediately Faccio Regalia drops into third position. Looking in the background at a couple of the Colinen cars. Not sure if it's Cortez Savano who got the better of the runs there. Just seeing if everybody gets through those first couple of corners neatly. Big lock up from Carlos Sainz, I think that was. And off goes the 24 car. And that is a problem for Fuminelli. And I can't see that is behind. It's one of the status cars. Not sure if it's Webster or if it's perhaps Jimmy Eriksson. Can't quite see.
Danny Kvyat running really wide.
Yeah, big moment there. So, wow, pretty neat start at the beginning there, Alex.
Yeah, and it looks like he's run wide again. Off onto the tarmac runoff. Conor Daly's had an absolutely storming start, and he's just going to look to check out now.
Yeah, this is where he's got to get the job done, as in his first couple of laps have got to be done with real commitment. Somebody trying to...
Nick Yellerly already making a lot of places up at the start there.
Yeah, Yellerly we expect to be on a bit of a mission. There's that Anita Hauser in the middle. There's another driver, second in the championship. We qualified further down than we would have expected, down in 14th position. But at the moment, it's typically frantic first lap. This is such a difficult corner. Watch for people running wide onto the dust and the gravel on the exit there of 12, going into the long sweeping left-hander into 13. We'll get a chance to take a breath. The yellow flag being waved. That's obviously for that incident we saw with Fuminelli and one of the status cars. So let's see how it's panned out. 0.61 of a 2 of a second for the two ART cars. That's all there is between them. Daly Regalia, Kosciuszko, Kvyat, Sainz, what a brilliant first lap from him up to 5th. Elena, Svino and Zamparelli in 8th.
Yeah, it's an ART 1-2 at the moment. Kevin Corges has had a brilliant first lap from 6th to 3rd. Danny Kvyat will probably be a bit annoyed that he made a few mistakes there, but there's still a long way to go in this race.
Talk us through this one.
Big look up from Robert Vizio at the start, and looks like Fuminelli got tagged there, but I think that might be Jimmy Eriksson.
Fong, I think, looking at it, yeah, it's Adley. He looked to me like he was super locked up for a long time coming into turn 2. Just couldn't stop it, and poor old Fuminelli was the car in the firing line. Now, Daly hasn't made the break that we thought. In fact, Regalia on his first flying lap has really tucked in well. They've dropped Kosciuszko quite early on. This is going to be interesting to see whether the AR2 guys are going to be able to drag each other away from Kyrgios.
It'll be interesting to see if Daly's already started to go into saving tyre mode. It's going to be very hard for Regalia to try and take a manoeuvre if Daly's still got life in his tyres.
Yeah, I guess also there's an element now. Somebody else off there, can't see that. Looks like one. Yeah, I was going to say it was look like one of the bamboo cars, Cameron Jordan there. An issue whether she was tagged, whether she just spun. Let's have a little watch. Just got edged out onto the loose stuff and lost the back end, and looks like she's lost the engine, hence the early retirement for Carden. Frustration for one of the two lady racers we've got out there. Sammy Gomez, the other one of the two. Now, Regalia is definitely at this stage quicker, but the question is, as you quite rightly said, Alex, is this intentional? Somebody else off there, can't quite see who that is in the distance, or is this him just basically finding that Regalia's got a bit too much this early on?
Well, that to me looks a bit too close for comfort if I was Conor Daly. Even if I was trying to save my tyres, that is too close than I would like. Unfortunately, I think it's the yellow flags that are hampering Regalia at the moment.
Yeah, and someone like Regalia, you always know that he's got that slightly Latin element of him where he can send the car down the inside, perhaps a little bit last of the late breakers. And who could blame him? Obviously, there's a lot at stake at this level. Of course, Regalia having raced in the European F3 Open, taking 3 wins last year. His debut win at Brands Hatch mid-season, a couple of wins at the end of the year in Barcelona. Also racing in the Auto GP Series, and did make his GP3 debut. But Sainz was the quickest of the drivers in Sector 1 first last lap there. Kyrgios quickest in Sector 2, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do this time through.
It's going to be interesting to see how Carlos and Danny fight in the Arden team. Obviously, I don't think there'll be any team orders, but we've just seen Luis da Silva retiring there early on.
Yeah, frustration for the Carlin boys. We saw Liechtenstein. It's a broken rear suspension, so that looks to me like that might have been contact of some sort. There was somebody else we saw off in the gravel. Carmen Jorda. Liechtenstein is not being shown as coming around either one of the other Carlin cars. Adley Fong and Fuminelli we know about because they collided. Carmen Jorda, we just saw her being winched away, still in the car, which is always a bit odd when you see that happening.
Nick Yellowly already up to P15, so he's come through really strong right from last.
Yeah, we're going to watch with interest for the distinctive blue Carling car of Nick. The Midlander is going to be on an absolute mission as they're changed there. There's Webster fighting hard in the middle of the pack. He's fighting, I think, with Venturini, perhaps scrapping with him. 23 car, yep, Giovanni Venturini. And Josh Webster, there is that line group car that we were talking about a little bit earlier.
There's an incident involving cars 18 and 24 that will be investigated after the race.
Yeah, so that is that first corner or second corner accident that we saw. Melville McKay, well, there's an Englishman that has got a very varied heritage in terms of his family history, but a very unusual mixture of nationalities involved in Melville. But he's been racing mainly in Europe in the Formula Renault ALPS series, amongst others, driving for Interwetten. So a bit less well known than some of the drivers you might know, the British drivers, for those British fans watching this, but certainly a talent to watch nevertheless.
Yeah, I've just seen passing through the shot there, the Faccio Regalia is very, very close to Connor Daly now. They're just starting to break away from the rest of the field. The ART car's looking particularly strong today.
We just saw a shot of the third ART car of the current British Formula 3 champion, Jack Harvey, currently sitting there in 10th position. So hopefully from Jack's point of view there'll be an opportunity to try and make some ground. Elinas, 6th, well, from a championship point of view, the top 3 in the series is Elinas, Niederhauser and Vino. So at the moment it's Elinas who is the furthest up the order in terms of the top 3 in the championship. Niederhauser's now up to 12th, Vino now in 7th position. So championship wise he could be on for extending his lead slightly, although Daly, who's in 4th, will be taking a big chunk out of that lead if it stays as it is.
It looks like Kajala is set to get a penalty for overtaking under the yellow flags, which obviously he got a penalty for overtaking under the red flags yesterday, so not exactly looking at the flag signals there for Mr. Kajala.
Not quite doing what he's supposed to be doing there. We see the 11 car of Niederhauser that we were talking about earlier. Here comes Connor Daly to start another lap with a very, very intense Faccio Regalia, doing everything he can to close it. Now lap times wise they're almost identical, 125.115 for Daly, 125.190 for Regalia. Meanwhile a little bit further back, 125.2 for Corjus. So he's just dropped back very slightly. The gap now 1.762 seconds between the leader and third place Fiat, Sainz, Elinas, Vino, Zamparelli. That's the rest of the order. Fastest lap for Carlos Sainz as he's just crossed the line of 1:24.573, so that's 0.8 of a second faster than the leaders.
It's interesting. That's obviously, I'm interested to see, like what I said earlier with the Arden cars, maybe using their tyres up too quickly. And it seems like, certainly on that last lap, that Danny Kvyat and Carlos Sainz were setting personal bests all the way through that lap. So it'll be interesting to see if they've already used their tyres or if they're gonna stick with it.
Has 3 sets of Pirelli tyres. It's the medium compound Pirelli tyre that all the teams have been allocated. Excuse me, and that means that some of the teams would have used a new set in free practice and 2 new sets in qualifying. Meanwhile, others would have used all 3 for qualifying, and that could have worked for or against you with the red flag situations that we had. And therefore, one would imagine that they're basically taking the best 2 sets and use those for the respective races.
Yeah, I think that would definitely be the plan. I think the plan would be if I was them, if I had a better set and I was starting round about 10th or 11th, you'd maybe try and consider the reverse grid race and use your worst set for or we've just seen a move down the inside by Robert Bizot. He just gets cut off there by Dino Zamparelli.
Yeah, Dino did a very, very good job in qualifying. The young Bristolian, the former BARC Formula Renault champion, former Ginetta Junior champion, in fact, back in 2008. BRDC Rising Star, a fabulous program that the BRDC put together to give young drivers a leg up. And of course, Josh Webster, another rising star, as is Nick Yellowly, and of course we've seen Jack Harvey as a superstar, much like yourself, Alex, as part of your FIA Formula 3 European Championship program. So as to have that sort of support. Now talk us through the start again.
It just looked like that Connor made a really, really good start. The getaway was good, minimal wheel spin you can see there, and it looked like that Danny had a bit more wheel spin, but both starts equally good.
And it was Liechtenstein, I think, that was left on the line there. We saw the yellow flags being waved. A little bit of a lock up there. Now let's see this, if we can see this shunt between Liechtenstein's car on the right hand side of the grid as we look at it.
Yeah, minimal wheel spin there from Conor Daly.
Yeah, really got the clutch throttle balance right, didn't he?
It looked like there was quite a few cold brakes out there, a few people looking up both fronts going into turn 1.
Let's see if they follow this through to see the incident. No, they weren't. Now, this time, Daly seems to have just edged away a little bit. And there you can see the gap each time, roughly about the same. It's negligible, really, isn't it? As a driver, Alex, when you're in this situation, what are you looking for in terms of managing that gap? You know that the driver behind you is quick enough to put pressure on, but what are you looking to do in terms of making sure that the gap's what you want to see?
The thing is with Conor, he's just going to be managing the gap the whole way. He doesn't want to let Baku get close enough so he can actually think he can make a move. We'll see Danny Kvyat is making a big inroads into Kevin Korges, and we could be seeing a move imminently.
Yeah, Kvyat obviously quicker in qualifying. Korges was the fastest driver on track in free practice. In fact, the time that he set was a 1:25.0, which was 0.3 quicker than the pole time that we saw. Now, the weekend, a little bit different format to what you'd normally expect to see for the GP3 runners. Normally they get free practice on a Friday, qualifying and the first race, effectively the race we're watching now, would be normally on a Saturday, and then race 2 early on Sunday morning. Whereas here it's a 2-day event, free practice, qualifying Saturday, 2 races Sunday. And that does change the structure of how they go about things slightly, and it means that also, perhaps in terms of what they're getting out of the track, the fact that there's no F1, no GP2, no Porsche Super Cup rubber, that's got to be a factor, Alex.
I think it's going to make the track a lot more consistent for these GP3 cars, just having their rubber going down, and it'll make it a lot easier for the teams to second guess which way the track's going to go.
Well, currently lap times wise, we're looking at the fastest car out there last time round was Carlos Sainz, still a 1:24.573, which is a couple of tenths off of the pole time that we saw from Conor Daly. But Daly at the moment now lapping a little bit quicker, 1:25.115. And that's going to be important that he can just get that gap up now. If he can keep that at around about 8 tenths and manage his tyres, he's going to be in really, really good shape for the last part of the race, Alex.
Yeah, the only problem is that, as we just see, Zamparelli again being hampered by Vizio, and not quite going down the inside. Dino defending very well. But yeah, like I said, I think part of the problem is that you can be very fast, but as long as you're tucked up behind another car's dirty air, you're going to be hurting your tyres quite a lot.
Presumably that's one of the sort of tricky things to balance with a car that's got a lot more aerodynamic performance, like the latest generation GP3 car's got. You're going to get affected through corners like this, where the front end of the car presumably is not going to be able to work as efficiently in that dirty air.
It's very frustrating when that happens. You've soared up to the back of another car.